Deputy City Manager. We're waiting for sorry for the technical difficulties. We're just getting the webinar started. We'll wait for the participants to join the call, and then we'll start with introductory comments. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started again. Hi, everyone online watching. Kelly McAdoo, the City of Hayward City Manager. I'm joined by Police Chief Toney Chaplin, Lieutenant Dan Olson from the Police Department, and Mayor Barbara Halliday, along with members of the Police Advisory Panel, and we will introduce them shortly in a few minutes. I wanted to just go through some logistical information for those who are joining us. Hopefully you can see this slide on my screen. There are 4 ways to join the town hall this afternoon. We have the online Zoom audio and video. There's also a telephone number for Zoom audio only. And the Zoom audio number is 1-669-900-6833. And the webinar ID is 915-2448-5686. And the password is 671153. You can also watch the live stream on YouTube. It's www.youtube.com/user/City of Hayward/live, or on Comcast channel 15. During the webinar this afternoon, we will ask for, we're going to have some introductory comments by our Mayor and Police Chief, and then we'll open it up for public comments, probably about 2 minutes per public comment. If you want to make a comment or ask a question, and you're online in the Zoom app, you can hit the raise hand button, and we will call on you by your screen name. We will unmute you and then allow you to speak. If you're on the telephone and you'd like to make a comment or ask a question on the phone, you'll need to dial *9, and that will notify us to raise your hand. We will then call on you by using the last 3 digits of your phone number. We're having some difficulties with the Spanish translation this evening, so I'm going to share the Spanish translation. We will go to a Google Meetup, and I want to share that information shortly. Hold on. We have Mrs. Margarita Quesada, who is our Spanish interpreter today. She will be hosting the Spanish interpretation on a dedicated audio channel. And I will ask her to address the Spanish-speaking community at this time. Mrs. Quesada, could you let everyone know how we'll be doing Spanish translation this evening? The Spanish translation, if you're wanting to join for Spanish translation, you'll go to Google Meet, and the number is 1-414-882-6673. That number in Espanol is 1-414-882-6673. And the contraseña is 835-418-411, and then the #. So hopefully folks can join us in Spanish as well. With that, we'll go ahead and I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Halliday, who will make some introductory comments before we move to comments and questions and commentary from our public members.
Okay, thank you, City Manager McAdoo, and good evening and welcome to all of you who have joined us. I'm going to keep my remarks brief because tonight we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts about the events that have occurred here in Hayward and throughout the country in the past couple of weeks. Events that have rightly raised concern about police-community relations. I want to thank all of you in advance for joining this conversation, and I especially want to recognize and thank the members of our Police Community Advisory Panel who are here with us tonight. I want to thank them for their commitment to the work that we have ahead of us. This panel was born out of the commitment for an inclusive, equitable, and compassionate community that arose from the work of our community task force in 2017. The report of the task force included a recommendation to enhance community police relations. And this panel's purpose is to improve trust and strengthen understanding between the Hayward Police Department and community members. It provides structure and venue for an open and honest dialogue. Now, for various reasons, including the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, it has taken some time to get this work started. But we are now moving forward, and I'm very pleased to have the panel members joining us tonight. And our Police Chief, Toney Chaplin, is going to be introducing them individually in a moment. But I would like to now take a moment to acknowledge my fellow City Council members who I'm pretty sure have all joined this Zoom meeting tonight, starting with our Mayor Pro Tem, Mark Salinas, and Council members Sarah Landon, Elisa Marquez, Al Mendel, Aisha Wahab, and Francisco Zermeño. Last weekend, I signed the Obama Foundation's Mayor's Pledge, and as part of that promise to review our police use of force policies, engage our community, and seek feedback as part of this review, and ultimately reform those policies where needed. So this meeting tonight, which will be focused on hearing your observations, questions, and concerns, represents a big first step in that process. The first of what we hope will be several opportunities for honest dialogue on our police community relations in our city. As I said when we adjourned our city council meeting last week in memory of George Floyd, he should not have lost his life in Minneapolis on May 25th. But let us hope, at least, that his death will be a catalyst for the change that is needed to ensure fair and equitable treatment under the law of all people in our city and country. It is now my privilege to introduce Hayward's Police Chief, Toney Chaplin.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. And I want to say thank you to the community advisory panel members for being patient and for joining us in this process. I was not part of the process that picked you, but after meeting you at our first meeting on March 12th, it's a very dynamic and diverse group. And this was not a rubber stamp. Each folks come from all walks of life in Hayward, have varied backgrounds, and I think each one brings something interesting to the table. I won't rehash what the mayor said about the genesis for the group or the purpose of the group. I was supposed to keep this brief, so I will. I think that we could be meeting at a better time than right now after the events in Minneapolis occurred. And I think tonight is the beginning of a long and necessary dialogue about community police relations. And like I said before, after meeting this group, I couldn't think of a better group to represent the community in Hayward. With that, I will introduce the group to you. First, Toney Adams, Stephen Carter, Freddie Davis, George Escucha, Denise Farouk, Andrew Gutierrez, Georgette Munoz, Zachariah Okinda, Sarah Prada, and Shawan Worsley. And everyone excuse me if I sound a little muffled, these masks, I'm getting used to this new normal. And with that, I will turn it back over to the city manager to kick us off and get us going. I know we started a little late, so we're really interested in hearing what the participants have to say. And again, reiterating what the city manager and the mayor said, we're here tonight to listen. We want to hear what the community has to say, and that's the purpose for this meeting tonight. So without that, I will turn it back over to city manager Kelly McAdoo.
Thank you, Chief Chaplin, and I want to again thank all the advisory panel members. I know we started this process last summer, and I also want to thank all of them for participating in the selection process for our new chief, Chief Chaplin, last summer. So a great first start to the panel's work with the city government. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I will call on individuals, as I mentioned, either by name for those who have raised their hands, and I will go ahead and unmute you and allow comments. We'll be doing basically allowing 2 minutes of comments per individual, and we'll take comments until 8 p.m. Or we'll finish early if we're done with public comments at that point. And so I will keep track of it. And first up, we have Ida Swanson. So I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk. And if you go ahead and unmute yourself, Ms. Swanson. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you all for putting this together and allowing us to be a part of this. I would just like to know what plans basically we would have in place to help mitigate such an event so that it doesn't happen again. What we witnessed was very disheartening. And we all recognize that there is a situation that we must, make some improvements and put some actions in place and hold folks accountable. But what I would like to know is what steps you're going to take to, again, mitigate this so that this doesn't happen again. How are we going to ensure that those that are here to serve and protect us don't have any red flags on records? So that we know in advance if there's something that we should be looking at. And also just to make sure that we as a community feel safe. And I do want to say, I know that not every law enforcement person is a bad apple. I do know that. I also know that there are some good folks out there, and there are some folks that are, don't have the best interests at heart for other people. So I do recognize that, but I would just like to know what we plan to do to move forward to make sure that we can all feel safe and we all have equitable, opportunities and to be able to, live together peacefully and know that we're supported and protected.
Thank you so much for your comments. And as the mayor mentioned earlier, we are recording this, and we have some staff members who are on as well taking notes. And we made a choice that we're going to spend this evening listening. So we'll take comments down and hear from you, and that's the role of this panel, along with the mayor, myself, and the chief, is to listen. And that was the end of your timer. We'll take those notes and thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, next up we have Elizabeth B. Unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go for it.
Great. So, my name is Elizabeth. I'm a voting resident here, born and raised here in Hayward. And my message is really directed towards the city manager, mayor, entire city council, chief of police, really everyone else. I'm calling to just state that Black Lives Matter is not only a hashtag, it is not only a protest chant. Black Lives Matter leaders like Patrice Coolers have made it explicitly clear that our first demand is to defund the police. So when we continue to declare that Black Lives Matter in our city statements, we must also continue to move with absolute urgency to defund the police. Reform is not going to save us. Reform has only made us bear witness to a slow genocide of Black and brown people. Reform is what got us here. City Council, you must reject all police union money and act in accordance with our demands. Our siblings are dying. There's blood on our hands, and anything short of urgent action is not enough. It's past time that we all look in the mirror and undo our own internalized white supremacy. We need to defund and reinvest in community jobs, housing, education, mental health, restorative justice, and much more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. And I did want to also mention, I think the mayor mentioned it on behalf of the city council, while they are all listening in, because this is not a noticed city council meeting, that they are not participating in this evening's meeting, but all of them are, I know, listening in and hearing the community comments as well. So we'll move on, and I will ask Frank Burton. Go ahead and unmute yourself, and you should be able to talk.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Frank.
All right, thank you. The California legislature passed and the governor signed last August comprehensive legislation, which was effective January 1st, 2020, regarding the use of deadly force by law enforcement. The new standard instructs officers to use lethal force only when it is, quote, necessary based on the totality of circumstances they encounter. That's considered a stricter standard than the earlier practice, which instructed police that they can use deadly force when it is, quote, reasonable, unquote, to do so. I assume that Hayward PD has modified its training of new officers to reflect the provisions of the new law, but have no idea of whether Hayward PD has retrained all of its sworn personnel. This topic seems to be one on which input from the community to the chief is called for. So if that hasn't already happened, I strongly recommend that the chief bring that topic to the advisory panel with the benefit of his thinking on the topic so far and requesting input from the community via the advisory panel and discussion among the chief and his command personnel and the panel of the new needs for use of deadly force. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, next up, Alicia Lawrence. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Alicia Lawrence. I'm a member of the Hayward Collective. So I'd like to know if what we witnessed with Eric Rosalia is an example of what de-escalation looks like in this community. Because if that is, then it really doesn't align with I think what community expected when we supported greater de-escalation training for Hayward Police Department. Further, I would like to know if in the case of Jermaine Barnes, if it is protocol for police to shoot into a car that is moving away on the basis of presumption of guilt. Additionally, I would like to echo what has been said earlier by another speaker, that Black Lives Matter is more than a hashtag. The collective does expect to see action from the council that backs up everyone's resounding support for Black Lives Matter, especially as it relates to police budgets and activity in the city. Lastly, everybody's watching. This entire community, they've been rallying, they've been in the streets. There has been a lot of groundswell of support around holding Hayward PD accountable. And so we're also watching the council and who you're taking money from. And we are going to be sure that we hold you all accountable for the funds that you are receiving. Because you're accountable to us as community members. You're accountable to us as the voters. You're accountable to us as the people who live in the city. And so we're going to keep holding you accountable, no matter how uncomfortable it makes you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Okay, next up is Jordan Leopold. If you go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, maybe speak a little bit into your microphone. You're a little soft.
All right, is this better?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, before you start the timer, I just want to make a couple of requests before I go into my actual comment. One, can we get the number of participants that are joining this call right now?
Sure, we have 237 participants right now.
Great, 237. And then can you also disable the chat? Because I think that, you know, if this is supposed to be a soundboard for the community, I think that there is a time limit and not all 230 people are going to be able to speak. So the chat will be an opportunity for people to comment when not able to be called upon.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I think we can, that comment, there's also there's 129 individuals watching on YouTube as well who are not on the Zoom call, so just FYI. And I just want to reemphasize that if folks feel uncomfortable or don't want to speak directly on the Zoom, if we enable the chat, feel free to go ahead and add comments there, but we won't be addressing questions that come up on the chat screen. So Tim, if you could, I don't know if you can enable the chat mid-webinar, so we'll see if we can do that during.
Great.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and start your comments?
Yeah, so hey everybody, my name is Jordan Leopold, Hayward native, did all my education here, K through college, and I'm still here, giving love to the community and here speaking on folks who are not able to be here. I think that what Alicia had mentioned is really important, that right now there is a grassroots movement to bring about change that cannot be ignored. So note that there are eyes watching and that folks are now engaged. Given the martyrdom of George Floyd's death, there are people in the streets, there are people demanding that change happens, that what has happened within the last week and a half to 3 lives that were shot, that were taken from us, that needs to end. So now, if you as public servants, if you as politicians of Hayward want to actually exercise what it is that you're supposed to be doing and represent the people, hear them out. Do not allow folks to be ignored. Take into consideration every word that is being said, because there are families here that are hurting from police brutality. This is not just a nationwide thing. This is a Hayward thing. This is about Black lives. This is about brown lives, right? So we need to defund the police. We need to fund the community. We need to fund the people. Let's think of ways concretely in which we can do that. Let's think of ways in which we can hold police accountable for their actions. And let's not play around, right? The people are looking for honesty, authenticity, and again, action and follow through on what we are demanding. So again, I just want to further emphasize that there are people watching and the word is getting out about what is taking place. People understand that the budget is in discussion. People understand that right now it is a time to make this change. So just understand that if you are really about it, as servants of Hayward, that now is your time to stand up. And we must end the ability for candidates to take money from the police, from the unions, because obviously that does not make sense.
Thanks, Jordan. Your time is up right now. Thank you. Okay, next up we have Jeff Trowbridge. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you very much. My wife Linda and I are here in solidarity with our church sister, Cristina Ramirez. And we were asking for transparency from the police department as to the death of Toney Ramirez at the hands of Hayward Police on May 20th. I wanted to find out the status of that investigation, find out whether or not the police are actually communicating with his mother and family. Certainly we want to stand together with our Black and brown brothers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, next up we have Crystal Porter, if you want to unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Crystal Porter. I've been a resident of Hayward for over 30 years, and I've been outraged by the police conduct that's been reported last month with the shooting of 3 people. I know people are talking about change, but we talked in very generic terms. I think the first thing that I look at when I've heard the reports from the media on these deaths, the first time I've heard the young man's name has been just now, Toney Ramirez. This is a name we have not been able to identify because the press has called him an unidentified suspect in the killing of a homeless man. Instead of giving him the dignity of identification, the city of Hayward has chosen to hide behind a veil of secrecy as to who this person is. Had this been the George Floyd case, if the city of Minneapolis had hid behind the fact they hadn't completed an investigation, would we have a movement today? If the city of Minneapolis had refused to release the videotape of the knee on the neck of George Floyd for 9 minutes, would we know what had happened? You may have read in the paper today that the police report neglected to even mention that the man died with a knee on his neck for 9 minutes. The police conveniently omitted that. In this case, we have police body cam. We also have videotape that I understand was taken by people at the scene, which was seized. I hope this is an unreliable report. I hope it's not true that the police actually seized the videotape of persons who were at the scene. But I'll leave that up to the city council to look at. But when we talk about people who are killed in Hayward at the hands of police, and people in general who are killed, who are not wealthy, who are not white, who are not prominent, they're always the unidentified suspect. They don't deserve the dignity of a name. Consider had this been a police officer who was killed. We would have known his identity despite the fact that the investigation was not complete within minutes, I dare say. I looked back at the unfortunate death of an officer, I think the last one who died here at Hayward, an officer Lundgren. There were people lining the streets of Hayward. Everyone knew his name within hours. We have a young man in his 20s who's shot by the police. Does he get the same dignity and the same respect of his humanity as that officer did? I would
Crystal, thank you for your comments. I'm sorry, your time's up. Okay. Thank you.
All lives matter.
Next up is Jose Hernandez, if you want to unmute.
Kelly, it's Toney Adams Robinson. Before you go further, those chat notes are still popping up. Can somebody please stop that? They pop up and block whoever the speaker is on my screen.
Okay, I think you can minimize it, Toney, so you don't see those popping up. I apologize.
They're in the middle, not on the side. I minimized the side already.
Drag up, click and drag up.
That's fine.
Yeah, if you can drag it to the side, then you should be able to have it so it doesn't block the speaker. Okay, sorry, Jose Hernandez.
Hello, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
My name is Jose Hernandez, homeowner and resident in Hayward, California. I'd like to state also that all the information I'm about to talk about comes from Housing and Urban Development and the Justice Institute policy. I also hold a master's in public health, conducting extensive research on incarceration and juvenile justice as public health concerns. Also knowing that the American Public Health Association adopted that police violence is a public health concern. Public safety is enhanced when people are incorporated in the social and economic life of communities. So that means more housing. That means better paying jobs. That $15 an hour that city council took away, that aids in public safety. Substance abuse. So more harm reduction tactics actually increases public safety. More support for incarcerated individuals increases public safety and reduces recidivism. There is a little correlation between more cops and public safety. More money should be going towards programs for the community and nothing else. Hayward is taking most of their funds from the general fund. That's about 50% comes from that. City council has the power to kind of change that around. But apparently it doesn't matter because folks are taking money from the police associations and instead of supporting the community. So please, more funding to community organizations, housing, employment, mental health. One concrete thing, I guess, because Hayward City Council is all about status quo. If just one thing is create a mental evaluation unit like LAPD, where a mental health specialist or social worker goes with the police when there's mental health crisis. I do not like calling the police with my brother who has mental health crisis often. I don't like just a cop coming by because they also berate me too, So how about someone who's actually trained? The cops are doing too much and doing things that they should not be doing and have no training at all to do.
Jose, your time is up. Thank you very much for your comments. Next up, we have Austin Hunter. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Oops.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Austin Hunter. I've grown up in the Bay Area, and I'm also calling in support of the community like everyone else tonight. The main thing that I want to emphasize is that the police need to be defunded, but it cannot be just slapping a new label on a different pig. At the rate things are going, whatever is put forth needs to really reflect on what the community needs and not just be another body of force in our city. And because of that, one of the other speakers later tonight, Rena, sent over some talking points that I think are incredibly relevant for this conversation, particularly things we would like to see in a new police force are, 1, ending the chokeholds outlined on 75 of the policy manual, 2, ending the use of deadly force in drug possession or felony cases, 3, treating officers' interrogation to the same standard as the public. Currently, officers are able to get the transcript of their interrogation at the point it is issued, whereas the public would have to wait. 4, cities should not pay officers while officers are on administrative leave for investigations into misconduct. This seems like a no-brainer. If they are found to have not completed any egregious behavior, then back pay is appropriate. 5, abolish the delay of discipline for 30 days after the officer has been notified, outlined on page 255 of the Hayward Policy Manual. I think it is a point in time in which the City Council could reflect on these policies and actualize change in the community. Right now, I see a lot of lip service and not a lot of action. I am sick and tired of representatives not actually digging into the policies that affect their community. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Okay, next up we have Artavia Berry. You can unmute yourself.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Austin, and everyone else who spoke before me. I will not repeat what I heard except the one thing that Austin said, which is every legislative body has the power right now to ban deadly force. Ban it. Ban it. It should not be in an officer's toolkit to take a life, period. And we should call for the immediate arrest of officers who kill citizens. Ban it altogether. Do it now. It takes one vote. End it, ban it, arrest them. That is accountability. Number 2, prioritize funding for Black and Brown communities, not for the blanket of the community, but for Black and Brown communities. Black boys are suffering in Hayward Unified School District. Black businesses are suffering right now in this community. Create a Hayward that allows all of us to thrive. All of us to thrive. And it starts with the reinvestment of dollars, not words, dollars for Black and Brown people, period. I'm done.
Thank you. Next up, we have Cris Ramirez. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, thank you. My name is Cristina Ramirez, and I am the mother of the young man who was 23 years old, who was shot and killed by the police May 20th, 2020. I have not been told any information aside from the sheriffs coming to my home at 8 p.m. and handing me a brochure from the coroner's office with a case number that is for an alleged traffic stop. I was told that my son got into an altercation with the Hayward Police Department and that the investigating detective would contact me the next day. No one contacted me. My son's father reached out and called and called and called. Finally got a call back and was told it's under investigation. No one can talk to us. No one will talk to us. So my son is laying in a funeral home right now. The next call I got was when he was in the coroner's office for 10 days and I needed to come and make arrangements to take care of his body. However, the Victims Witness Assistance Program will not pay for the remains to be disposed of. And since my child was murdered, it's now my responsibility to take care of it. So I want to know, what is the city of Hayward going to do about this? Speak, you got some time? My husband is here with me and he would like to say something.
Hi, everybody. We're just trying to find some closure. Right now is a difficult time for all of us, and we just want some closure and get back to how it was before. But I know things are changed, but just pretty much just closure and and move forward. And he has 2 daughters that he left behind, and it's sad. His life was still young, and but it would have been 24.
June 30th.
Yep, June 30th this month. But yeah, time up.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, next is Ramona Bisher.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, my name is Ramona Bisher. I'm an educator in Hayward, born and raised in Hayward, teacher for 15 years. And to the Ramirez family, that was, it's just so emotional, and we're all with you. Our condolences. I'm a teacher at Fairview, and my understanding is before I got to Fairview, your son was a student there. And so we all are grieving for you and in support of getting justice for your family. Today, I don't want to, I ditto to many of what the speaker said. I wanted to bring up the issue that I feel like is something that immediately can be changed within our police department. There's a website called 8can'twait.org, and research shows that more restrictive use of force policies can reduce killings by police. And when I looked up the city of Hayward police department, unfortunately, out of those 8 policies, we only have 3. And so I demand that we immediately, our city and police department, ban chokeholds and strangleholds, require de-escalation training, and obviously the shooting, police-involved shooting of Eric Rosalia was not enough. That was a very huge example that there is a need for de-escalation strategies to be a constant thing for our police department. There should be a requirement to exhaust all alternatives before shooting, to ban shooting at moving vehicles. We should have a use of force continuum. These are things that immediately should be put in place and enacted and adopted. Our police department and our city should be doing that now. I also, we have an issue of over-policing. I'm tired of driving down Hayward city streets and seeing, 6 police cars, and possibly twice the number of police officers for one person. That is unacceptable. I mean, that's an example in the video of Eric Rosalia. What was it, 6 or 7 police officers? That is not necessary. And we need to invest more in our Hayward community, our Black and Brown community. I am in full agreement that, we are...
Sorry, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we have Janelle Coronado.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I want to appreciate and echo all of our commenters before, and appreciate also City Council and Mayor Halliday for answering my email regarding the Obama Pledge. I do want to highlight that that is only a 90-day initiative, and as Mr. Chaplin had said, like, this is going to be a longer conversation, obviously. And so I hope that there will be, in that reporting that is required for that initiative, that that report will be made transparent to our community. Additionally, I want to raise that fiscal year 2021 will start July 1st, and the budget for our police department is concerning for me. $79 million out of $167 million in the general fund is to our police department, and minimal to anything else. I really, really hope that our city council will revisit that before July 1st. I have a blink of an eye here at Hayward as a resident here in Hayward, and I've seen the city transform, and we need to do better. This has to happen. There's no excuse anymore. I yield my time.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have Elise Grossi Soyster.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I want to reiterate everyone else's comments. Definitely Black Lives Matter and Black lives are valued in our community here in Hayward. And all of the facts that have been stated for defunding the police, I definitely agree with that. I specifically raised my hand to bring attention to the murder of Steve Taylor in San Leandro, and how we can talk about using some of the funds that are allocated to the police and reallocating them to mental health services and better responding to public safety in our communities. There's no need for police to be responding to public health crises in our community, and we have a huge homeless population within our community that would definitely benefit from different responders to different crises. So I hope you'll take that into account when reestablishing a new, better budget for our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Gina Antonini. Go ahead and mute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. I might repeat some of the things that so many great things have been said tonight, but I wanted to know, we need more accountability and open transparency when it comes to the police department and when it comes to their police actions. Examples of Cristina Ramirez. We need to know what goes on. They work for us. They work for the community. Also, what type of training and processes have been put in place regarding police dealing with people with mental illness so we don't have another situation like Stephen Taylor, who was killed at Walmart in San Leandro? We also have a lot of homeless and mental illness individuals walking around downtown Hayward, harassing business owners and citizens. I've had gentlemen walk around with his pants down to his ankles, showing everything. It's not something that I want to see or have children see in the downtown area. And if we don't clean that up, and we have a substation down the street, so I just don't understand why it's not being addressed. But our downtown will never be a Piedmont or a downtown Redwood City if we do not clean up the people that are around there. Also, lastly, what can we do about police shooting to disarm and not shooting to kill when they're dealing with somebody? If someone's holding a gun, can't they shoot them in the arm to have them drop the gun versus shooting to kill? And that's all I have to say. I yield my time.
Thank you, Gina. Okay, next up, and I apologize, it's listed as Vidur Malik on the screen.
Yes, thank you. My name is Vidur Malik. I work as a mental health clinician, and I think I appreciate the emphasis on mental health that I've been hearing from a lot of the previous speakers. One of the things I've been thinking about a lot is what a lot of people have said before, just in terms of how do we discern when a mental health response is needed versus when a police response is needed. And what are the misconceptions that some of us have about just, assuming that a police response is needed when a mental health response would be just fine. So I'm wondering what the plans might be for how to differentiate between those two issues and how we can change attitudes around people's, thinking that the cops are the people you call for everything. I'm heartened by the priorities that people are putting on mental health, but I think in order for the change that we want to happen, mental health really has to be right, as important as a person's physical health. And I think until that happens, we can't shift the mentality around calling the cops. For the privileged people in the world, calling the cops is what you do to stay safe. But I think for those of us who have that privilege, we have to think about what it's like when calling the cops actually makes you more scared. So I'm going to educate myself to adopt that mentality. And I just need to think about that more. And I need to use my skill set to think about how we can use my skill set and people with my skill sets to sort of address people who needs help more than they need to be punished, they need to be put in jail. I've worked at a jail before. I also used to work at Cronin House. For those of you that don't know, it's a dual diagnosis rehab facility in Hayward for people who have mental health disorders and substance use disorders. So I've kind of seen the differences between treating somebody and punishing them and what works and what doesn't work. And I just hope that as a community, we can think about mental health and what we can actually do with people responding from a mental health standpoint and how we can shift attitudes around calling the cops versus calling a mental health clinician. That's something I'm going to think about for my own education. I thank everybody for their time.
Thank you. Next is Rena Sekhan.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, I'm with my baby, so just be patient. I want to first start by saying thank you for creating a space where the community can voice their concerns. In the weeks leading up to this call, I've been looking up what are some constructive things that I can personally do to affect change. I am not a council member, a police officer, or do I hold any appointed position like a city manager. For someone who is not on the inside, it is hard for me to see how I can make a difference. Nonetheless, that did not stop me from reaching out to all the Hayward council members and city manager, and I wanted to find the police union contract that Austin cited earlier, that everyone has been so passionately talking about on social media, as this is the vehicle to drive change within the police force. I found the document that I was looking for on my own. I want to reiterate, I found that on my own. Every city manager and city council member has no idea what I was talking about. Now, either of all of you live under a rock or you lack the basic internet skills to view trending topics. If I had your positions of authority, I would have already found that document, combed through it, and so that when a constituent reached out to me, I would have had some answers and some guidance ready. Instead, either my email was outright ignored by Councilmember Wahab or Councilmember Salinas was giving me his re-elect speech. Okay, I am pleading with you guys to look up the police manual. I have read all 900 pages. On page 75 of their police manual, it says that they are allowed to use chokeholds. We want to end that. End the use of deadly force for felonies, drug possession, theft. Nobody needs to die for $900. It's not okay. Our life is worth so much more than that. Officers should not be allowed to access recorded interrogations or transcripts. They should follow the same process that civilians are subject to. And that is on page 108 of the Hayward Police Manual that is on your city website. What is good for the goose is good for the gander. Cities should not pay for officers while officers on administrative leave for an investigation into misconduct. If nothing is found wrong, they can get back pay. And that for everybody is also on page 108 of the Hayward Police Department Policy Manual. Abolish the delay of discipline for 30 days after. The other thing that I would be helpful for Mayor Halliday is city council meetings should report police metrics weekly. We want to know what are the number of active investigations that are going on with the police. What is the number of closed investigations? What are the total number of investigations? How many of our currently peace officers are on paid administration leave due to investigations? This will give us more insight into what is the actual performance of the police. I have about 15 members of the community.
Irina, I'm sorry, your time is up right now. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Katie Alvarez. Go ahead and there you go.
Hi, thank you. I live in Hayward. I've lived here for the past 3 years. Before that, I've lived in Fremont, Los Angeles, and Berkeley. And one of the things that struck me when I moved here in regards to the police in the community is over-policing. Every time I see a car pulled over on the side of the road, there's always at least 2 patrol cars. It's just too much police. And that happens every time I make this observation. There's always way too much police. So with that, I'm seeing a lot of duplicate effort, duplicate work, duplicate costs. That's money that can be used to fund other community services that have been shown to increase public safety, things like affordable housing, jobs with livable wages, health, and education. Another point I want to make is about the strategic plan. I looked on the Hayward Police Department's website. Looks like the strategic plan was last revived in 2017. Are there plans to update it? If so, are you guys going to seek community input on that? I saw a lot of programming on there that just doesn't make sense for it to be, for it to fall under the police department, things like police and schools and health and other things. Yeah, that's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Next, Brianna Kavanaugh. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Brianna, and I knew Toney from the time that he was 5 years old. I've watched this young man grow up alongside my son, and he was murdered by police on the 20th of May in Hayward, and we need information. This is a kid who was failed at every step of the way. He was failed in school with not enough IEP support. He was failed in institutions. He was failed by the police when he was murdered by the police. And this is not okay. We can't get a police report number that's accurate in order to get information. We need the police to be held accountable. We want the police officer's name. We want to know what happened. We want to know when we can get information about his death. We want the police and the police officers to be accountable. Toney was about to be 24 at the end of this month, and he is very much missed. And I hold each and every one of you accountable for his death. It is not just the police, it is the people who support the police and stand with the police and the people who pretend not to see everything. We can't even get an accurate police report number. This is not okay. This is not okay. You are responsible for this. I yield my time back.
Thank you for your comments. Next up, we have Dwight Turner. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, hope you
might want to put your
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, just mute your screen or what you're watching at home.
I think okay. I think she's okay. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, that's much better.
Okay. I just want to make a couple of quick comments. One, I didn't get very much notice about this meeting in less than a few days, and it would be very helpful if we could. I don't know if you have regular meetings at certain prescribed times or what, but at least ought to get notice of at least a week before the meeting happens. Sometimes it's difficult for people to rearrange their affairs to make a time of this nature. So that would be very helpful to me, and probably many others. I'm surprised you have so many people participating this evening. The other issue of real concern to me is the transparency. When an incident, especially any case where there's a fatality, put out the body cams and put out whatever information you have. I mean, otherwise it seems like you're hiding information from the public, and it creates a bunch of suspicion, anger, rumors, which things may be correct or incorrect, and it would really be helpful to keep the support of the citizens along with the city and the police. I'm a very strong supporter, but when I don't know anything, I can't really advocate for a wonderful police force. So I think that would be very helpful to have better transparency, more timely release of the video, and a reasonable report, at least saying the name of the victim. I think that's just really sad. Anyway, that's basically what I wanted to say. Those two things.
Thank you, Dwight.
Common decency.
Okay, next up, Stephanie Contreras. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello. Yeah, I'm an educator for YEP, the after school program, and I'm also a student at Chabot. And I just wanted to reiterate that we do not have any trust, nor I notice that you use language like improve trust and enhance relationship. We have no positive relationship with the police. We want no positive relationship with the police. In fact, we want you to invest in our communities, like what said before, mental health resources. People wonder if we're not going to have any police, where does that money go? That money goes to housing and security and education. That's where the money should go. And so what we want is not an improved relationship. We don't want the money to be invested in the police. It is proven, as also someone mentioned earlier, Mo, prison and policing are in and of themselves forms of reform. Reform is ineffective. From its inception, police have had the authority all around the nation to conquer, judge, and execute Black and Brown and Indigenous people at their own discretion. So thank you, Moj. That is someone that left a comment in there, so I wanted to echo that. That is his name. Can you all still hear me? I noticed someone is... Yes?
Yes, we can hear you, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, wasn't sure what that piece was about, sorry. Just wanted to make sure. So yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that police as a use of force is ineffective. And so I want to make sure that you all are, as people said before, we will hold you accountable to defund the police, because that is what we are asking. That is the main ask here, is to defund the police and reinvest in mental health resources, reinvest into education, and that is it.
Thank you for your comments. Next up is Cynthia Nunes. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, but you might mute your recording that you're listening to, or the...
Okay.
There we go.
I just want to, first of all, before you start my time, maybe allow a minute for you guys to reevaluate the fact that you haven't responded one time to the Ramirez family and their loss. I think that it would maybe be beneficial for you guys to show a little empathy, especially Chief, you are there to recognize the family and maybe respond to them prior to me speaking.
As I mentioned earlier, tonight we're listening, we're not responding, and so if you want to go ahead and start your comments.
Right, I just believe that that's the least you could do, but you know, it's okay. We'll go through the same thing that we've gone through with Augie Gonzalez's case, but I'll start my time now. My name is Cynthia Nunes. I am the cousin of Augie Gonzalez. You all have met me many times. I want to start off, first of all, by saying that, number one, we need to defund the police department. We need to take those funds and put them towards things like our community mental health teams that can reach out to these situations where cops don't need to be involved, and our schools that are completely underfunded. We have some schools that are funded way more than others in this community. I'm also asking for updates. You know, a policy was passed back in November that any officer involved use of lethal force that resulted in death would have an email sent to the DOJ to request an investigation. Number one, I would like an update for our family if that went through, if that email's been sent and what the status is. And number two, I'd like to see you send that email for Toney Ramirez's family as well within the week. I think it's important that we're not hiring any cops that have been under investigation during their investigation, past or present, with any malpractice. I think that it is important that we are making sure that we are not using the amount of overtime our officers are currently using in this city. We have officers that have made over $200,000 in the past years because of how much overtime we're allowing the city is allowing our police officers to take. By taking funds from the police department and putting them into the community, also getting a mental health team that can respond to calls that officers don't need to be any part of. I would like to see a list of how many calls went out last year, and if you could break those up in what type of calls. Chief, I know you presented something similar back in November. I'd like to see if you can release that information again, because I think it'd save you guys a lot of money, and that's also another reason why we can take from that budget. And I think it's important that we have no police in schools, period. No type of police presence at all in any of our schools. We need to focus more on the children, focus more on their education. We have a lot of schools with cops and no nurses, so let's focus on that.
Thank you.
And I yield my time.
Your time's up. Great, thank you. Next up is Lacey Amadei. Unmute yourself, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, good evening. My name is Lacey Amadei, resident of Hayward and community advocate. I'm calling tonight with a list of concerns. Firstly, I am deeply concerned about the treatment of the Gonzalez family and the fact that they are still fighting for justice for their loved one, Agustin Gonzalez. I am deeply concerned by what I witnessed at those city council meetings when the Gonzalez family had to drag the council, kicking and screaming, to force them to even consider some form of accountability, and that they had to do so while grieving. I am deeply concerned that those events, which should have jarred even the most out-of-touch council member into action, occurred over a year and a half ago and nothing has changed. That violent policing continues. We've just had 3 officer-involved shootings in less than a month, and we just heard from those parents. I am concerned that the only body we have as a community is this advisory panel, and this panel has no power of review, no authority to hold police officers accountable. And I am most concerned that at this crucial moment, when as a country and as a community, we have finally decided that this is not the world that we will pass on to our children, that we do not want white supremacy. We do not want an institution that is racist and violent to act as our only source of community safety for future generations. I am concerned that in the middle of all of this, the Hayward City Council will instead act as advocates for the police union and will only stand beside the community for a photo op, but will not stand with the community in executing their demands, which are very clear. It is the demands of Black Lives Matter. It is to defund the police, and that is for the budget discussion tomorrow. This movement that we are seeing arise and take shape in front of our eyes represents hope. It represents the future that is within our reach if we can be courageous and take risks. And for political leadership, council members, mayor, yes, that means risking your political career. We need you to do that. Everyone who has suffered through this and has lost a loved one is worth that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Danvi Lee. Okay. Danvi I can't allow you to speak because you have an older version of Zoom. So comments in the chat. Yeah, if you want to put your comments on the chat, I apologize. It's not allowing me to add you to speak verbally. I'm sorry about that. Alejandra Cardenas, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, good evening. Yes, my name is Alejandra Cardenas. I am a Hayward native, and I want to share my thoughts on the current events that have taken place. People are asking to defund the police because I just think it's absurd that the police have the biggest share in the budget, and this has been ongoing for years now. I don't know how far back, but on the website, it looks as far as maybe 5 years back. A solution I want to suggest is demanding more from police officers, because to be real, I think police are just puppets. Like, you guys, they're just doing the dirty work, right? So we blame police, right? But who are hiring the police? It is the Mayor, Barbara Halliday. It is the city manager, Kelly McAdoo. You guys should be demanding more from entry-level police officers. No work experience required. No work experience. That doesn't mean McDonald's. That doesn't mean Ace Hardware. No work experience. Highest level of education required is a diploma or GED. Chabot is offering free education to the first year. I don't understand why there isn't more education demanded from your public servants. No volunteer experience. How do you expect your police officers to be empathetic if they don't have to ever care for another person? I don't understand that. No emergency medical training. No first aid principles is what you guys call it. But you guys shoot someone and just leave them to pass until the ambulance comes by? I work for an ambulance. So to know that you guys have the power to shoot and injure someone and not know how to help them, like, you guys are supposed to serve, quote unquote, serve and protect us. You work to serve and protect yourselves. And I'm talking about, like...
Alejandro, your time is up. Thank you. Ramona Rio? Go ahead.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. My name is Ramona Rio. I was a longtime resident of Hayward, born and raised for 34 years. I still work in Hayward. I'm a social worker. I identify as a Latinx, queer, non-binary, trans, femme. I'm also a non-Black accomplice in solidarity with the Movement for Black Lives. And I want to express my solidarity and my condolences to all the families here present who have recently lost their loved ones and over the past few years who were murdered by the Hayward Police Department. And I want to say, Barbara Mayor Halliday, you've expressed your solidarity and support for George Floyd and his family, but where's your support been for all these other families over the past few years and even in the past month? And I want to say I've lived in Hayward. I've been a community advocate for a long time. And I want to appreciate all the work that everyone has done to promote diversity in Hayward. But I want to say right now, that is all liberal racism. It has always been liberal racism. It always has been white supremacy under the veneer of diversity. And that time is ending. And the only reason that all of us are on this call today is because there's now a national conversation in which you could hear us. We've always had these feelings about the police. It's always been this way amongst our communities. You're just now hearing about it now because there's a national conversation where you're actually able to listen to us and you could hear us. And I want to say that we are witnessing the end of the era of colorblindness. We are witnessing the end of the era of colorblindness. And I want to echo what everyone else has said about ending police union contributions to elected officials. I want to advocate that we defund the police and we invest in infrastructure for health, education, and employment. We also need to invest in nonviolent community-based alternatives to public safety. No guns in our community. Demilitarize the police. I also want to say that I'm a social worker. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I have worked in the field of mental health for over 4.5 years. I go into people's homes who I know they have a history of incarceration. I know they have a history of violent behavior. And I go in those homes without a gun and I de-escalate those people and I connect them to services. I do that every day. If I could do it, all of us can do it. Even you, Kelly McAdoo, and even you, Barbara Halliday, can do that without having a gun. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next is T. West. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Toney West. I'm an educator in Hayward, and I spoke at the rally. And I'm glad that you're holding this forum. I'm going to go real quick, but I want to say something to everybody that has been speaking that apologize for saying the same thing. That's what we need. We need people to hear the repetition of what we need and what we want so people don't think it's coming from one voice, but multiple voices. So I'm going to go real quick through this list of things, and I'm hoping that at some point it could be transparency all across the board. Trying to find out information is absolutely ridiculous when it's people that are serving the community. Things should be readily available. So a couple of things that I would love to see. My father was a police officer, and in conversations with him, I just thought, all officers would be as amazing as him. That is not the case. So a couple of things. Transparency on the education and training. We cannot wait till a police officer is hired and then have them do bias training. We know for a fact that education, college education, is what changes people's world views and makes them a little bit more open for inclusivity. So waiting until a racist cop becomes a police and then has minimal bias training does not change his prejudices and will not change the fact that he already goes into the field looking for people of color to do things wrong. Second, clearly stated code of conduct violations with disciplinary actions clearly defined. I'm not sure why we wait until a police officer does something and then we decide how we're going to discipline that person. It should be clear what will happen if you do something wrong while you're working in law enforcement. Removal of safety nets that make it almost impossible to charge or convict police officers. Things like qualified immunity makes it impossible for somebody to even take a police officer to court. So let's make sure that we can do that. Reform how police serve the community and when and why they are called. There's already different areas that have a separate phone number besides 911 when somebody is having a mental breakdown or if somebody is in need of homeless services.
Toney, I'm sorry, your time is up.
That is fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Next, Angela Andrews, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello. I want to ask just a few questions. I know you can't answer, but I have questions about what's happening with the police department. I want to know if the body camera footage would have been released if it wasn't already on social media for Eric Gonzalez. I want to know why I have to look at East Bay Times to find out details on what's happening when there's an active investigation. I agree with the other callers that we need transparency and accountability. I want to know, when can this happen? I want to know what kind of training do officers actually learn, as this is another knife situation that the police feel like only bullets can handle. I want to know, what is the point of tasers if they're not being used? I want to know, how long is an active investigation if the evidence is there? Those are just a few of my questions, and I hope they'll be answered soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Okay. Claude Moore, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I just wanted to say a couple of things to you and anyone else listening. First, Black and brown people in Hayward are aware of the importance of security and law and order in their communities. They wouldn't be advocating for defunding police lightly. Arrests and convictions for felony crimes and other things make up less than 2% of the entire population of the United States per FBI statistics. Most people who are asking for these things are either victims or potential victims, and so they're not asking for these things lightly. And I would ask that you please give people's proposals serious consideration and be charitable and understanding. A lot of people are angry and hurting right now, and so they may not share their suggestions in a way that they actually intend. And if they do intend them in the way that they are, don't allow me to make it seem like that they're not. I just want you to be charitable in the way that you interpret people's perspectives. I just want to also say, this situation is nice, having these public forums is nice, but please have a more engaging and dialogic space, because it's necessary for you to understand what people are actually saying, and it's necessary for people to understand what you are trying to say. We need to know what we need to know what is tying your hands, right? If there's legal things that are tying your hands from taking particular actions, it would be nice to know, right? Otherwise, you come off as cold and callous and uncaring. One other thing in regards to the setup, it might be a good idea not to include uniformed officers in the room when you hold these types of conversations. I don't have a particular problem with a uniformed officer being present, but some people have traumatic experiences with these officers, and it makes it harder for them to participate in the process. The last thing I just want to say is, please stop allowing the police to take all the blame for these types of situations. These types of situations were created structurally, right? Police are given far too many responsibilities, and no amount of training is going to prepare them for every single situation that they're being tasked to deal with. We're giving them guns, handcuffs, batons, tasers, and other tools to obtain compliance, but we ask them to engage with homeless people, people who are suffering from mental illnesses, children, and nonviolent interpersonal disputes. We can't expect them to be able to deal with those things while also dealing with violent situations. That doesn't make any sense. We need to stop giving them those responsibilities so that they can do the job that other people want them to do. If you want them to deal with a violent situation, if that's what the purpose of police is, to provide law and order when there are violent situations taking place, then let them do that. We have SWAT teams that deal with very serious terrorist and or hostage situations and other situations.
Well, I'm sorry, your time is up.
Not a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next is Amy. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Oh, yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Justin Loomis. My wife, Amy, and I are residents of the city of Hayward. My wife actually grew up in Hayward and went through the Hayward educational system. And I want to share just a couple of comments. One is our hearts definitely go out to those affected inside of our community who feel deep and gravely about the situations that have been happening over the past few weeks. Speaking as a father of two young daughters, and needing to ensure the protection and safety of my family, my community, and those around me, I definitely do not want to discount whatsoever any of the grievances that anybody has in regards to incidents that is happening to them directly. I do believe that an increase in the transparency of not only the police department, but the Hayward local government and school systems is necessary when we are asking for, or when people are asking for, defunding of local police, and those funds are directly tied to taxes and other things involved in the community, that the community as a whole should have a voice in regards to where that funding is going. I do believe that further investment into the community is necessary, but just in the same way that the education systems have failed many of the people affected in these communities, I also believe that just blindly walking into a process of decreasing the general safety of all citizens within a city because of emotional reactions is not necessary. I do not, like I said, I do not want to discount any emotions that anybody has in this area, and they are definitely well-founded. But I also believe that we are all now coming together to have this conversation, and we should not be taking any knee-jerk reactions to be able to create a less safe environment. On a national survey, Hayward is ranked 10 out of 100 of the safest cities in America, and there are reasons for that. The recent activities of whether citizens of Hayward or our surrounding cities in response to the injustices that may have happened across the United States is an example of one of the reasons why some level of safety is required. But more importantly, that we need to continue focusing on people being able to protect themselves as well, and making sure that a constant dialogue is happening between our community and our neighbors.
I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you. Vince Luce, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I'm Vince. I was born and raised in South Hayward. I am here representing my Filipino-American family who are voters and homeowners in Hayward. We are in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, Black and Brown communities, and all grassroots organizing groups working for justice and equity. Hayward Police Department has an over $80 million budget. How much of this money goes into restorative justice programs? How much of this money goes into community public safety programs that do not involve police officers strapped with firearms? I support the demands and set of policies of Black Lives Matter that call for divesting in police departments in exchange for investment in truly transformative programs, including anti-displacement policies, right to counsel for low-income people facing eviction, housing for the extremely low income, education, employment programs for people of color. And on the topic of budgets, city budgets should be built by a participatory budgeting process that gives budgeting power directly to community members. Hayward must defund and dismantle the Hayward Police Department as a step towards creating a community-facing public safety program that staffs residents of this city who are trained like social workers in de-escalation, trauma-informed care, mental health, and crisis counseling. I urge the City Council and this board to support this. If you want crime to go down in the city, you invest in people, invest in Black and Brown communities, invest in humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Yesenia Sepulveda. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening. Can folks hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Yesenia Sepulveda. I'm a native of Hayward. And I first just want to acknowledge the families and individuals on this call who have historically, been impacted by police violence. I think there's families here, but, we know folks who have been directly impacted as well, who continue to do the community work. And so I just want to acknowledge them. There's just so much said, and I'm also representing the Hayward Collective and reiterating what folks have said. I think we could go in roundabouts talking about providing police with more training, more anti-bias training, more diversity training, but training does not matter if we do not have a system in place to hold police accountable. Police will act in a way that is preserving of them in their lives, without any intention of keeping in mind of any training, because their actions will not be held accountable. And so I think we need to have a system in place that does that, so that we don't sugarcoat, right, the real need in holding police accountable. So I think before we talk about training, we really need to think about how we have this system in place to speak of what we're going to do in instances when police act in egregious misconduct. Two, and moving forward, I agree with folks that are saying, we cannot continue to support Black Lives Matter if we're not about to throw action behind that. We cannot move forward under the banner of equity and change if we don't look to the history of misconduct and murder within the Hayward Police Department. So I really urge, our city officials, our police department, to look at that history, with our recent history, right? Our families are here it's not even a consideration. We have to look at those cases. We have to know the names of officers who were involved in those shootings if we're to talk about any kind of justice or any kind of real support for Black lives and Brown lives in our community. The third point...
Yesenia, your time is up. I'm so sorry. Okay. Thank you for your comments. Jessica Cruz, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. Hope you guys can hear. Hope you guys can hear me okay.
Yes.
You guys can hear me. Okay. Let me mute my my TV because I have you guys on the big TV. I just wanted to say thank you for doing this and listening to all of us. Condolences to all the families that's been affected by the police. I'm sorry that I'm really, really emotional because this is really hard to see the families and the police like harassing people. They just harassed my husband driving last night, and there's two police driving, following him, going home. He's just going home, and he is an educator here in the Hayward community. He's an educator for the Hayward School District, and he was just driving home, and I am scared. I am a scared resident living here in Hayward for my husband, for my family, and my daughter, because you guys can't get your shit together. I apologize for my language. And I am hoping and praying that you guys would set the example. The city of Hayward would set the example for all the other cities, that you can do something about this whole equality pandemic that we have. And I just can't also believe, I'm going to talk really fast, that there's no license for police. Like I'm a pharmacist, and if I give somebody a prescription and it's wrong, I get fired for it. If I give bad customer service to somebody, you get fired. And I just don't understand, why can't they get fired? Get fired, be accountable. If you're wrong, just say, I admit I'm wrong. You get arrested for it. Why is it hard to make excuses? Again, what everybody's saying, invest in the people, invest in the humanity, and defund the police, and put it in education, put it in the kids, put it in the kids' future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Jessica. Okay, Angel C, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'd like to speak on the death of Cristina Ramirez. So, a few years ago, my brother Austin Price was killed, and my family got closure for his death. And I would like to know the city's plan to give their families closure as well. I believe that they deserve to know what went wrong, what happened, and all the details, because it's just not fair for them to not know what happened in his last moments of life. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Angel. Next, Eurydice Sanchez.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eurydice Pamela Sanchez Martinez, and I'm the president for Associated Students Incorporated at Cal State East Bay. As you all know, police brutality has been awfully real in our lives. I'm originally from San Diego, living 10 minutes from the La Mesa riots. During the school year, I live in Hayward, 10 minutes from City Hall. Luckily, I live in the dorms, which, although it is in Hayward, it feels like its own little town up the hill. Thankfully, our university police department has been respectful of our community, but I fear that not every student has that kind of relationship with their police department. I hope that this reform protects all students, even those who do not live up the hill. Our students make up a large percentage of Hayward, and we as students are awfully disappointed in the way Hayward police has reacted with its residents. We have hundreds of students as young as 17 years old living away from home who fear the police department. We need the city of Hayward to help us protect these young adults and every single person's family. Change starts at the local level, and we really hope Hayward can keep its promise we see on the street signs. No room for racism. We need police officers to be more like peace officers. We need to remember that officers are flawed individuals just like all of us. But it is necessary that our city holds officers accountable for their mistakes and does not defend officers when they react with unnecessary violence. Murder is murder, and a badge should not be a shield from the law. I urge the city of Hayward to invest in their education system instead. The children of this city need you more than ever. They need to see that the city prioritizes them, and they need to see that their lives are worth prioritizing. Cal State East Bay is watching. Black Lives Matter. Police brutality must end now. And I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you for your comments. Next is Karen Gonzalez. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen, and I live in Hayward. I've been living here for over 25 years. I'm a wife of an infantry officer in the U.S. Army. And let me say, it is so embarrassing that the military overseas has higher standards than a police department in a city like Hayward, hub of innovation, hub of progression. It is embarrassing. my husband would get fired. He would get fired with no pay, no nothing if he ever did any of the stuff that some of the police department do in this country, and particularly in Hayward. I have called about drugs, about harassment over and over again over 25 years that I've lived in the city. And the same people that were selling drugs then, when I was 17 years old, are still selling drugs now. There are a ton of other important things to do than you guys roaming the streets with multiple cars, multiple police, stopping people, pedestrians that are walking around, harassing people just because you have nothing better to do. There's a ton of work that needs to be done in Hayward, and you all need to take accountability for it. Aside from that, I also want to say for those police officers that are good people, that do a good job, we need you to really step it up. You really need to vocalize the things that are going wrong in the city and call out your officers when they're out there doing things that they shouldn't be doing and harassing people. Have the courage to stand up for the things that matter. Because when history reads all of this, they will see you and know that you were on the other side, that you were not supposed to. Have some courage and some dignity and some honor for that uniform. Aside from that, I can't even think of a job that pays more than 6 figures where you suck at it and you still get paid for it. People, they get in trouble for things they do, and all they have to do is get a desk job until we figure out what they did wrong. That is embarrassing, honestly. I don't even have the words for it. In addition to that, the last thing I want to say to this is that we need to start holding accountable council members like Council Member Salinas, who's just is worried about the next time that, he's going to get our votes. So Mark Salinas and also Mayor Halliday, that allows our curfews to be extended without saying anything and standing up for our city and allowing ICE to roam around in our cities. So my name is Karen, and you're going to be seeing me around a lot because I'm going to make sure that both of you don't get the votes that the city of Hayward deserves.
Thank you for your comments, Karen. Carl and Myrna. Oh, I'm not going to be allowed. Carl and Myrna, sorry, it's not letting me add you to the talk. So if you can and you want to make your comments in the chat feature or try to upgrade your Zoom so I can allow you to talk. Sorry, this version isn't letting me do that. I apologize. Next is Brenda P. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm a third-generation citizen of Hayward. I was always proud to be from Hayward, but lately I am so disappointed in what I'm seeing. The Hayward Police Department released a statement on June 1st saying a person was shot. From the context, you make it sound like he was a looter, but he was not. I had to find out from Twitter and the GoFundMe that this young man was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Your statement says that he was sent to the hospital with minor injuries. And the GoFundMe shows that if he was shot any deeper in the back, because he was shot in the back twice while in his car, that the bullets would have pierced his lungs. This man was a minor. The Hayward police did not notify his mother for 7 hours. I have not seen any information from any official about this. I have emailed the mayor. I have emailed Council Member Wahab. I have messaged the Hayward Police Department and tweeted at them. The Hayward Police Department tweeted 4 separate times about the Santa Cruz sheriff that died, but you can't respond to your own citizens on social media or keep them updated. Things need to change. Black Lives Matter, it's more than a hashtag, and everyone should know that this is going on. I yield my time.
Thank you for your comments, Brenda. Next is AJ. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is AJ. I'm resident of Hayward, kid in Hayward. I came back, moved back to Hayward, homeowner, registered voter. And I've worked around the security profession in the military and as a security consultant for the last few years. I'm Black, okay? And my life matters. But I don't feel safe in these Hayward streets. And Hayward has a crime problem, and now it has a crisis of confidence of the police doing their job correctly. Now, my heart goes out to the victims, but the biggest threat to my security, to my well-being, is the crime problem. And I'm scared that some of the conclusions from this meeting will be to disempower the people who we assume are supposed to take care of us, even though right now they're asleep at the wheel. Last year, Hayward had 107 violent crimes. Had 5,052 property crimes, 1,411 vehicle thefts. If you look at the people in this room, you have a 1 in 32 chance of being a victim of a crime in this city. Now, I remember in January, the confetti was still on the ground from New Year's Eve, and there were 2 dead bodies, homicides in this city. Where was the police, right? So in my own neighborhood, I had a friend of mine in this town had their car get broken into. I had vagrant come onto my property and try to enter my residence. So I'm speaking to the victims of poor policing, okay? Now, I'm saying I'll stand with the police, but they're sleeping at the wheel. They need better training. They need better resources. They need better skills. And if we jump to try to castrate the police force as a knee-jerk reaction, we're not just gonna have even worse police officers. I work in security. If you give a guard $14 an hour, he's not gonna get the job done as well as a guard that's properly trained, equipped, and has all the resources. So I'm not trying to defund the police, but I'm trying to focus on either whatever method you want to do, social disorder policing, community policing, whatever you want to call it. There needs to be actual reforms. There needs to be actual enabling, allowing police to do that.
AJ, your time is up. I'm so sorry. Thank you for your comments.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Okay, the next is an email address, hey@treasuresunleashed.com. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dorothy Dominique. I am a parent, a youth advocate, a Black woman, a proud Black woman, a proud individual of the community as well as a human being. And I must speak on the matters that's taking place. For me, the problem is, as a person who produces events and so forth in nature, I know I spoke to Barbara Halliday multiple times last year trying to invite her to the Juneteenth meeting. She was not present, nor did she ever email or anything of that nature. I just want to know going forth, as I am producing events to unify communities, because right now we do need healing. We need to be, I can't even speak because my heart is like, we need to come together. We need to be present for one another, because right now we're hurting. You know, the Black community is hurting, the brown community is hurting. I mean, we're hurting as people in general, because we have hearts to feel for those who have a heart to feel. And I just want to know that the city of Hayward will be present if there is events done, and it is more of a Black narrative in that nature. Will you be present to witness and be there to represent the council members, to represent your position in the city, and to showcase that you are present, to showcase that you are there for us as well, because we need that right now. You know, it's not about just seeing you, and I've seen you multiple times, and I think you didn't think that, you know, it'd become a moment where it would come a 360 or 180, whatever, where I'm speaking right now, speaking on this matter. But if there's something happening, which will happen, a Pan-African event, I would love for you to be present. I would love for the city council members to try to be present. I would love for funding to be provided so I can go out in the community, do more work for the children, because I'm all about the youth. I'm all about getting them to have confidence in themselves, to see themselves in a different light, not something less than, especially with the Black youth as well. So I just want to know that you will be present in this fight, be present in this moment to make a stance, not just send out an email, but to put the actions as well. And that's just what I have to say, because for me, it's hard as a Black woman who has family members who, when I'm driving a car with them, I get paranoid for my brother, my little brother. When he's in the car, I drive by myself, there's not a problem. As soon as my brother get in the car, I feel that pressure. I feel that pain. If a cop comes behind us, are we going to get shot? Is he going to get shot? And what happens next? So I just want the police. I understand that defunding is what a lot of people are speaking on, but I feel like the police just needs to be more present. They need to get more training. They need to understand that if they see another individual, whatever race they are, that they're not quick to just pull a trigger, quick to feel like they're a criminal, because I thought it was until proven guilty. But a lot of these people are not proven guilty. They're automatically guilty prior to even so. So that's what I feel needs to be done. If there is funding going to be removed or whatever, it needs to be put into their training, because if they're going to be present to work with the community, they need to know how to. It is none of that, I was fearful of my life. How are you fearful? You got a gun. You got all these different elements, and this person has nothing on them, and you're going to shoot them, and it's okay. And that's the problem that needs to be fixed.
Your time is up. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Next is Araceli Orozco. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, well, hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Araceli Orozco. I'm a Hayward resident for the last 25 years. And I'm also a representative for the Poder organization, which is parents organized and dedicated to reforming education. First of all, I want to start with the problem that I just had of finding the link to this meeting. I was trying to pass it down to the parents that I know here, especially over here in South Hayward. And I had a really hard time. Not until I emailed Miriam, the secretary there, that she's awesome. She gave it to me, but just the lack of interest in putting that basic information out there, that says a lot. Maybe yeah, you guys need to have this, but not. It's just, I'm upset about that. I also want to, I didn't like the comment of where Ms. McAdoo said that they were not going to answer the questions in the chat or the concerns. So I want to know, before this meeting ends, how will we know, and how is the city and the people that they're going to address these comments and concerns that the community has? I also want to make sure that they know that we, the group of parents, that we're also in solidarity with this movement that's going on right now. We also support all our local activists, like the Hayward Collective and all the other ones that are asking for accountability. We also want to reform the police, make sure that that money that's being spent, on them, that it goes with to our youth, to our kids, to our community, to their education. We also want are in support of the Ramirez family. They need answers. So now, what can we do about that? They also, I don't want them to go through the same thing that the Gonzalez family went through. So if we need to go and protest in your guys' houses, we are going to organize and do that, because we are sick and tired. And let me tell you, folks in the community, something, this is part of our fault, because we're not electing the leaders that really have that courage, to go against, they don't want to look, they only want to look nice, they don't have the courage to really make those votes. Right now, the only person that I see there is Ms. Wahab. She's the one that introduced the higher wage. She's the one that wanted to do the mental health for police and all of that. She's the one that's bringing all these things. And she's getting pushed back by the members, by their same council. So we need to wake up, people. In this November, we need to make sure that we're electing the right people that will really definitely represent us. And like Karen just mentioned, I will also be maybe next to Karen doing that, making sure that we elect the right people for this job. Thank you.
Your time is up. Thank you so much. Okay, Dan V, I'm going to try and get allow you to talk this time. Hopefully it will work. So we're going to try Dan V Lee again. We got it. Great. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you. If you can let me know when I have 30 seconds left, that would be greatly appreciated.
I will try to do that, yes.
I'm a Cal State East Bay professor, and my concern is for the safety of my students who participate and contribute to the community. They participate in the community. Our school is what keeps the community running. We pride ourselves on being the most diverse university in the contiguous U.S., in a diversity that is the heart of the Bay. We are calling for transparency and accountability by the city and the police department. We get footage of one police-related incident within 24 hours, but none of the others. We get our information piecemeal. We've had 3 incidents in 2 weeks, and that is absolutely unacceptable. The timeline for release of information should be done in a timely manner, and timely does not mean 3 weeks later in piecemeal. Why is the Hayward Police Department even using deadly force as an option? I want my students to be able to take evening classes without fear of being targeted. I'm also asking for the council members to release the funding they received from the police union alongside the votes that they've cast in the past that relates to law enforcement and community issues. I am also expecting that there be a follow-up with today's meeting and how council plans on responding to the community. This should be done within the next 2 weeks. We need our electives to go beyond listening and to act on our concerns. Lastly, I would like to know what the Community Advisory Board is recommending to the council, and all of that is to be made public, and how the council responds to these recommendations. I'm done.
You got 37 seconds left, so.
I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. David Watley, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Kelly. How are you?
I'm good, David. How are you?
Good. Hi, Chief Chaplin. It's a pleasure to meet you, albeit virtually. And I'm sorry, I don't know who the other officer is there in the back, but what was that?
It's Lieutenant Olson. He's in charge of our personnel and training division in the police department.
Okay, great. Well, thanks so much for holding this forum this evening. My family, as I believe some representatives of the city of Hayward are aware, have been residents of the city for over 60 years. And, the city has gone through a lot of changes since, growing up. And I think right now we're seeing sort of just a lot of bent up frustration from a lot of residents. And first and foremost, my heart goes out to all of the families who have spoken this evening and who have lost a loved one. I just send you my utmost, my heartfelt condolences and sympathies, and I am so sorry about that. One thing that I was hoping to speak a little bit about was the role of social workers. I think that there was a guy who mentioned he was a social worker several callers back. And my brother actually has a mental health condition, and he was hospitalized recently. And actually, it was the Hayward police that helped him get the help that he needed to actually save his life, because he tried to overdose on prescription drugs. And my problem is the social worker has not been around for a long time. And I think that that incident could have been averted had the social worker that I thought was, assigned to him done their job properly. So I think that Alameda County and the collaboration with the county needs to be strengthened. And I would like to know who I could talk to about following up on that, because to me, that's a key issue. It shouldn't be police officers who are trying to de-escalate mental health crises of homes. It should be social workers who are working regularly with these families so that these things are averted. It's not, by the time the police come, it's already too late. It's already, they don't know what's going on.
David, your time is up. Thank you.
If I could just be given, I sent you an email, so if you could just let me know who I could follow up with, I would appreciate it.
Sure, we'll follow up via email. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Next is Christopher Robertson. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
What's up, guys? How are you? Listen, guys, just 2 quick points and a quick experience for 1 second. So when I was 11 years old, I lived about 30 seconds from the epicenter where the Rodney King riot took place. And so my stepdad and I, we would go to our fence and just kind of see what was going on between people versus people and police officers. And for me to be 11 years old, it actually took me about 3 years and counseling to understand. Like no one could provide answers, and so my mind didn't register what was going on. You know what I mean? And so it took me about 3 years of actual counseling to, let's say, maybe come back to zero. You know what I mean? So, and I guess like the loss of touch or the loss of feel or the loss of emotion, even as an 11-year-old boy, from seeing something so surreal, I often see that same look in officers' face. And I just wonder, like, what's going on in their life? Is it depression? Is it alcoholism? Is it a certain, just what's going on the beat? Like, what's going on for them that they go from 0 to 100 so quickly? I am also I own a gym in Hayward. The name of the gym is called Smash Gyms. And I've been a trainer in Hayward and Union City for a very long time. And I've had thousands of clients in the past 7 years, many of which have been police officers and fire department servicemen. And so when I've had intimate talks with them about their job and them on the beat, and they have been comfortable enough to talk to me about things that they wouldn't say in public, I've often left the conversation wondering, like, why are you still a cop? Why not just quit? You know what I mean? And so I often wonder, like, with the police department, is there a way to put like yearly psych tests like on the schedule? Like if cops go through so much stuff and they hate the people and they hate the system that they work for, number one, why are you still there? You know what I mean? If you can, like,
your time is up. I apologize. Thank you for your comments. It is almost 8 o'clock, and we did say we would wrap public comments up at 8. I apologize. There are a few more speakers that are still, and more people keep coming to the list, but we did say we would stop at 8. So I'll let one more speaker, and then we'll give the panel an opportunity to speak. And if you didn't get a chance to speak, you can add your comments. You can also email them to us, or you can add them to the chat. I'm going to go ahead and Kelly Palma, go ahead, unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Palma. I'm a teacher from Hayward, and I wanted to speak on a case from one of my friends. His father's name was Roy Nelson Jr. Nelson, who suffered mental health issues, called the police on himself on December 19, 2015. He had just come from a visit to a psychiatric hospital. Roy Nelson Jr. died that night, moments after whimpering and saying he could not breathe. His death was ruled as a result of physical assertion combined with methamphetamine intoxication, according to the court records. There's a body cam footage of the police officers using the rap method on him. The lawyer of this case learned that officers Michelle Hall, Nathaniel Shannon, Matthew McCrea, and John Padova were cleared of any wrongdoing from the department's internal affairs investigators. There hasn't been any policy change or change in the police department. I urge you all to understand that our community deserves justice. We do not have trust in our Hayward police department. We need our demands to be heard and followed. And I also want to you to understand that the request to defund the police is only a start. I urge our community to learn about the prison industrial complex and how policing is only the start to the violence that occurs in this system. We need to invest in our schools and our mental health services. If you care about our community, our council members will continue to learn how to dismantle systems that oppress Black and people of color. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, for your comments. Okay, again, I apologize for those who didn't get an opportunity to speak tonight. I know that the mayor, the chief, and I, and the advisory panel, that this is not going to be the only time that we do this kind of community forum, and we look forward to doing it again. So I hope we'll get a chance to do that. I want to go ahead and give each of the community advisory panel members an opportunity, if they choose to share any comments or thoughts as we wrap up the meeting, and to, again, also limit their comments to about 2 to 3 minutes apiece. And we'll go, so if any of the panel members want to raise their hand, I can go ahead and go in order. Go ahead, George. I think George raised his hand.
Well, I didn't want to be the first one because there's a lot to absorb here, and unfortunately, in 3 minutes, I don't think I'll be able to articulate and convey how this meeting is making me feel, and how what responsibility I have to my community right now after listening to 2 hours of emotional and raw discussion. I first off want to say that I'm really proud of Hayward after hearing our residents, after hearing so much pain and anguish, that we responded the last 2 weeks in the way we did. And while there may have been incidents of the violence, the city didn't erupt. And after hearing these calls and our fellow community members on, I have to wonder why it didn't. They're tired, and it's a community that needs answers. And my commitment to my fellow community members in this role, I know that we are constrained by what the advisory panel is meant to be, but is to really try to listen and be transparent and to ensure that I'm conveying that there's some questions that need to be answered and that we're getting those facts out as quickly as possible. I want to publicly say that I want to send some condolences to the Ramirez family. I don't speak for the Hayward Police Department or for the city of Hayward, but as a human being, I can express condolences for the loss of life. And I think that as we're forgetting our humanity in institutions, in my workplace, we forget our humanity. We're concerned about lawsuits and we're concerned about how things are said in the media and in the public, that we don't allow ourselves to be human to say sorry or I feel your pain. And that goes so far. That goes so far in helping people to heal. And my first thought was to say, why don't we have a community liaison to families in situations like this? But why do we even need a community liaison to have a staffer do that when we shouldn't be in these situations? So I want to let everyone know that I was reading comments and taking notes, and I recognize that the movements around 8 Can't Wait and 8 to Abolish, I think those are some really meaningful changes that we should consider. And I don't think that we should just do a study and then in 6 months come back and when everyone's forgot about it, say, oh, well, this doesn't fit in within the contract or within the vision for the Hayward Police Department. But I do think that these are some meaningful reforms and they are things that we as a community can embrace. I think the police department will want to embrace this stuff too, because I know that they don't want to be the bad guys. They must be as tired of all this as we are. Powerful reform needs to happen. Trust needs to be built. And I think that this first step was having this meeting. I'm sorry it was in a rush. It happened so rushed, and there was grand visions for how this commission was going to move forward. But the reality is that this is happening in real time, and we need to create some positive change. And I'm looking forward to working with the rest of the panel. But more importantly, I'm looking forward to hearing from the community, and forwarding these concerns. There were some very concerning things that were brought up, and some really thoughtful things and some practical solutions. And I don't think that we should just allow this to just wait on some shelf and some binder as a study. This action can be taken on this. So lots more to say, but not enough time, and I'll let the rest of the panel speak.
It's Toney.
Toney, hold on a second. We have a couple other folks.
I can't find the hand to raise.
Okay, well, I'll call on you in a second, okay?
Don't worry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Why don't we go to Zachariah? I think you are next.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zachariah Okenda. I think like George too, I just feel like I'm just really moved by a lot of the comments that have been made tonight. And again, I think that, we can do more as a community to show support for the families affected by police violence. I don't, again, speak for the city of Hayward. I'm a community member. For those of you who don't know what we are up here, panelists, the advisory panel was put together last year to try to get community members, people who care about this issue as much as you, who the callers are on this phone call, to be able to be part of the discussion and to create a linkage between, the rest of the community and what's going on in the city and in these decision-making processes. And, I joined because, I've long believed that we need to change how we do public safety in our country and in the city. And so I think, I'm moved by the conversations that we're having, and this is clearly an Overton window shift that we're seeing here, where we can be talking about legitimately how to, what to consider defunding or, demilitarizing or, all these policies that are coming up that haven't had the light of day. And now there is that sunshine, and, we need to keep up this pressure. So I just stand in solidarity with all of you. Thank you for coming out, and I anticipate that the city is going to digest everything that, has been said in this meeting and is going to respond. I know some of the comments, people are concerned that there's not been enough back and forth in this meeting and enough hearing what the city is actually going to do. And I think, I think that this is the first step to get the city to, hear, the representation of the concerns that we have. So, I'll leave it there. I think that, we have to keep this up and we have to keep this discussion going, and we need to act. So, thank you for letting me be here. And again, I stand with all of you right now, in these difficult times. So, let's keep up the work. Thank you.
Thank you, Zachariah. Sarah, I think you were next. Sarah Prada.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just want to thank the families that came on this evening for the courage it took to speak about their loved ones who were lost. And I want to send my love to you. I'm a mother of 3. I care about the children of Hayward. My children are here. And I care about the children that I advocate for in the schools. And I believe that we have to change this today. We have to change it now, because I don't want to see anything happen to those children. So I believe that what we're doing today matters. I do believe that we need to take funding out of, and this is me personally, we need to take funding. There's too much. It's a high percentage. We need to take it out of the police department and put it into education. Because with education, we won't have half of these issues. And I really believe that we need to have more training and more educating of police officers. And we need to have more community. I'm going to ask this because I know this isn't a part of the protocol, but if our mayor could just acknowledge the pain that was expressed tonight on this call, ma'am, I would really appreciate it, because just hearing that mother and that father who spoke, for you to sit there and not say anything, please, I'm asking you, please, can you acknowledge them and their courage that it took for them to be on that call? And Chief, please, if you could acknowledge it.
Sir, I have no qualms about acknowledging any of the pain that I've listened to tonight. I've listened intently, and that's my purpose for being here, is to hear these concerns so that I can go back and manage this organization appropriately. And, again, that's why you're sitting here, so that you can also take this feedback and be a sounding board for the community to let us know the comments you read, what you believe from the areas that you're responsible for in your communities, to listen to folks out there, not just on this call. We have 230, 240 people in here. Hayward's got a whole lot more people in it. So we want to hear from everybody. I recognize we also have some YouTube viewers, but that's why we're here tonight. I will never not acknowledge anybody's pain. I don't think I'm surprising anybody by saying I'm African-American myself. I've experienced things myself. I don't turn that off. I wore this uniform for 30 years, but I've been this color for all 51 that I've been alive. So, I do acknowledge the pain that folks are feeling. And some of the things that we've had to do as an agency to protect and serve doesn't mean that the parents are responsible for that. It doesn't mean that they feel any less for their children that they've lost, for their cousins, uncles, nieces, and nephews. So, no, I have absolutely no problem acknowledging that, and I'm doing so right now. So to answer your question, Sarah, yes, I will, and yes, I have.
And I want to add that, yes, I have been very upset about the lack of information that we have received about really all 3 of these incidents. And I think that is one of the things we immediately have to change. And I am particularly upset to hear from the Ramirez family that they did not get reached out to. We have been through this before, and the council has asked that policy be changed, and I will be demanding answers as to why this didn't happen in this case and why none of us have more information about that case, or really I think we did get quite a bit actually about the case, Mr. Isaiah, but the third case too is one that I don't think that we have received information about, and that has to change. We need, we need to be much more transparent about what is happening here. We are told investigations are going on, and we can't release certain information, but I really want to know why that is, and we need to do something to make sure that it never happens again, that someone in this community or anywhere else dies as a result of the actions by one of our police officers, and we do not, as soon as possible, reach out to the family to let them know, and to let them know as much as they can at the time about the circumstances. So thank you for raising that, because I definitely was not happy to hear that, and we'll be following up.
And I'll just echo, I think both the chief and the mayor have very eloquently expressed, concerns and the condolences to the families on this call. And again, I can't share their grief, but I hear it, and I want to help our police department make changes that we can help, so we can help these families get the information they need and get information out to our community. Okay, I think, Toney, if you want to go ahead now and unmute yourself, I think you were next to speak.
Okay, I will be very brief. I am embarrassed that I found the community members way more knowledgeable than I am about things that are going on in terms of police department, knowing what's in the manual. And I'm sure the council members were embarrassed also. So my request would be that I get a copy of the recording from this meeting and the notes, because I'd like to commit myself to getting deeper into information that I think a police commissioner should know, or a police committee member should know. So if I can make that happen, that would be my only request. And then to say thank you to our super knowledgeable community. I was so impressed with how smart and how informed so many of the people are, and the large number of women that spoke. Congratulations, ladies.
Okay, thank you, Toney. I think Andrew, you're next.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. First and foremost, my deepest condolences to all families in Hayward who have suffered in one way or another. I'd like to echo what my fellow panelists have communicated. I don't speak on behalf of Hayward PD or the city of Hayward. I speak for myself, my family, and my community. Thank you to all that spoke today. I love seeing the community involvement, and I'm very proud of us all. As a Hayward resident and victim of several crimes since my 6 years living in Hayward, I share many of your concerns and look forward to engaging with my fellow residents and panelists to help shape what Hayward is and what Hayward will become in the future for our families and our kids. My wife and family have set roots here in Hayward and want nothing but the best for all of us. I joined this panel to try and help change my community and increase transparency. Many of us, and by us I mean us in the community, not just the panel, want transparency, and I would love to see that. Whether it's in my career, relationship with my family and friends, or as I'm parenting both of my kids who are under 4, I try to communicate in a transparent manner and push others to do so. I respect certain manners cannot be communicated in detail, but there has to be some level of communication to our community from our city officials, including the police department and those elected officials we have elected in Hayward. I consistently lobby friends and family to move to Hayward, as it's a great community filled with amazing, hardworking people who have an incredible amount of love for one another, and tonight we've all proved that. Thank you to all those that provided us with insightful facts about our city, such as our budget and police manual. I did not know those things existed, and thank you for pointing that out. I look forward to working with you all and making Hayward better.
Thank you, Andrew. I think Freddie, you're next. Go ahead, you need to unmute yourself first.
There you go. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello. And first, I want to thank each and every one of the people that have spoken, that had the courage to speak their hearts. I also heard our city manager said that someone was taking notes, and I do believe what she said, and I do believe the things that was addressed will be answered to the folks that ask questions. This kind of took me a little by surprise to hear the community members speak in the manner that they did. I heard their pain, I felt their anger, and I also felt that it was like we have no other choice but to say what we say, and we want people to listen to us. But we need to do an honest, we need institutional honesty. And if we had some institutional honesty, we can reshape this community with each other. I'm normally not lost for words, but I'm very, very troubled right now with all the stuff that I've heard. And as NACP president, there's some things that myself, I'm going to take back and put in place to work with the police chief and the mayor and our city manager and do all that we can do, because Hayward needs to be a really good place for us to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Freddie. Last is Shalon, has her hand raised.
My heart is so heavy right now, hearing the pain from the different families who have lost loved ones. And as everything is unfolding in the country, I struggle with what do I do? What do we do? And before what happened in these past weeks, I was thinking about these issues in our community and joined this council with the hope that things could change and that people could be safe, that my 2 sons could be safe. And my desire here is to create a place where I don't have to tell an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old that their lives are in danger. And being a part of this group is a desire to bridge the gap some way, somehow, and to try to make a stand and have a voice that can bring about a space for safety, for healing. And that is my intention in being here. And my hope is that this panel, this group will be a space where that happens and where we will be able to just create the change that we need to see have happen. So my deepest condolences to the families who have lost loved ones, and I'm expressing my intention and commitment to helping to bring about the change that we really do need. And thank you all for sharing today.
Thank you, Sean. Does anyone else want to make a comment before we end the meeting today?
Kelly, I just have a follow-up question about our accessibility to the community, and if there's an ability for us to share either contact information or, I don't mind sharing my email address. I just I want to make sure that that it's accessible to members of the community who want to reach out to us. I don't think that they need to wait till the next meeting for them to ask us questions.
I think that's a great suggestion, and we can, for those who feel comfortable having their email address public, we can add that to the city's website So it's easily searchable from the homepage. When you search police community advisory panel, it goes straight to a page where hopefully you guys people can find your contact information. Great. I want to thank everyone for being here this evening and for sharing all of the thoughts and comments and anger and concerns and frustrations. We're hearing it, we're listening, and I think there's a lot that we need to talk about and to do. I want to just let everyone know that we will be posting the recording of this meeting online, and we'll also distribute it citywide via our staff newsletter and on social media, so folks can watch it and can hear the discussion. And I think, as we said earlier, this is not the last of these community conversations, and I hope that as we start to recover from the pandemic that we can actually meet in person, because obviously this virtual format leaves something to be desired on a topic that is as deep and intense as this one is. So I just want to acknowledge everyone's participation this evening and thank everyone, and we will go ahead and end the meeting.